The words at the door. I think there's been a mistake. My mother stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance just enough to make the message clear. This event is limited, she added. Behind her, I could see soft lights, decorated tables, and relatives dressed in formal clothes. Laughter floated through the hallway. Someone clinked a glass for attention. Your one click can keep these stories alive. Subscribe, because every voice deserves to be heard. Don't miss out on the journey. Subscribe, and let's grow, laugh, and learn together. Their 30th wedding anniversary, and apparently I wasn't on the list. I know what today is, I said calmly. I just came to congratulate you. My father appeared beside her, his expression tight. We didn't send you an invitation. The sentence wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. For a moment, I simply nodded. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I understood something about moments like this. They aren't impulsive. They're decided in advance. Months earlier, I had chosen a different path than the one they planned for me. I left the family business instead of taking the management role they had already told relatives I would accept. To them, it wasn't independence. It was betrayal. Since then, conversations had grown shorter, colder, and now publicly erased. A few guests near the entrance had begun noticing the tension. Whispers travel fast at events built on image. You should have respected our decision, my father said quietly. I held the box in my hands more firmly. It wasn't large. Matte black wrapping. Simple ribbon. I'm not here to argue. I replied. Then why are you here? My mother asked. Because despite everything, they were still my parents. Because anniversaries marked time. Because I had built something meaningful and wanted to honor it. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I extended the box toward them. Just a gift, I said. My father hesitated. Suspicion crossed his face. He accepted it slowly, as if expecting something symbolic. Petty, dramatic. The guests nearby pretended not to watch, but they were watching. My mother stepped aside, slightly curiosity overcoming resistance. Fine, she said. We'll open it. Not inside. Not later. Right there. At the doorway. My father pulled at the ribbon and lifted the lid. At first, he didn't react. Then his eyes shifted. Once. Twice. His posture straightened. My mother leaned closer. What is it? She whispered. He didn't answer immediately, because inside the box wasn't just a gift. It was something they hadn't expected. And in the next few seconds, the words "we didn't invite you" were about to feel very small. The gift they couldn't ignore. Inside the box wasn't something flashy. No watch. No jewelry. No dramatic gesture. It was a framed document. At first glance, it looked official. Thick paper, embossed seal, structured formatting. My father lifted it out carefully, his expression shifting from irritation to confusion. My mother stepped closer, heels clicking softly against the entryway floor. What is this? She asked. He didn't answer immediately because he was reading, line by line. Across the top, in bold print, property transfer confirmation. Below it, the address of the building where they had run their family business for the last 22 years. The same building they leased. The same building whose landlord had been steadily increasing rent every renewal cycle. The same building they had complained about losing one day if costs kept rising. My mother leaned in closer. Her voice dropped. That address, that's ours. Yes, I said calmly. It is. The document explained everything clearly. Ownership had been transferred legally. The property had been purchased through a holding company 6 months earlier. The lease agreement would not only remain, but be permanently stabilized. No future rent increases. No termination clauses triggered. No forced relocation. My father finally looked up at me. His expression wasn't anger anymore. It was calculation. You bought the building? He asked. I did. Not through inheritance. Not through help. Through the business I had built after walking away from theirs. Months earlier, when I learned the landlord intended to sell the property to a commercial developer, I saw an opportunity. If purchased privately, the building could be protected from redevelopment, protected from eviction, protected from sudden financial pressure. So I acted quietly, professionally, without announcing it, not to prove anything, but to secure something that still mattered to me, even if I no longer worked there. I was going to tell you tonight, I said, as a gift. The hallway had grown quieter. A few relatives nearby were no longer pretending not to watch. My mother's posture softened slightly, but her pride kept her steady. You expect applause? She asked. No, I replied evenly. I expect nothing. That answer landed differently than any argument could have. My father glanced back at the document again, scanning the legal language as if hoping to find a catch. There must be conditions, he said cautiously. There are, I answered. Both of them looked up sharply. The rent remains the same, I continued, for as long as you operate the business. No increases, no pressure. My mother crossed her arms. And if we don't, then the building remains mine. No threat, just fact. The silence that followed wasn't hostile. It was heavy with realization. For years, they had positioned themselves as providers, decision makers, controllers of opportunity, and now, standing in their own doorway during a celebration meant to showcase stability, they were holding proof that the balance had shifted. Not aggressively, but undeniably. You could have asked to come inside. My mother said finally. I did. I reminded her gently. Another pause. My father looked toward the party behind them, guests laughing, unaware of the recalculation happening at the entrance. Then he stepped aside. Come in, he said quietly. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't dismissive either. I walked inside calmly, not triumphantly. The room felt familiar. Same relatives, same decorations, same stories being retold. But the atmosphere had changed. Whispers moved quickly. News travels faster than music at family events. My parents placed the document back into the box, carefully, almost respectfully. Throughout the evening, they acted composed, gracious, grateful to guests. But occasionally, I caught them looking at me differently. Not as the son who left. Not as the disappointment who rejected their expectations, but as someone who had built something substantial without their blueprint. Near the end of the night, my father approached me privately near the balcony doors. You didn't have to do that, he said. I know. Why did you? The answer wasn't complicated, because walking away didn't mean I wanted you to lose everything. He studied my face for a long moment. For the first time in years, there was no correction in his expression, no advice waiting behind his eyes, just understanding. Behind us, guests continued celebrating 3 decades of partnership. But at that doorway earlier, something else had quietly reached its own anniversary, the end of one power dynamic, and the beginning of another. Not louder, not hostile, just balanced.